You know, everybody hopes Taiwan can have a consensus. Everybody would like Taiwan to be of one mind about its future. But those of us who know Taiwan well know that this is still a remote possibility, that maybe decades will be required before something like a consensus can be formed.
那个，这个我们还能不能再继续跑台？不行，
不用了，太乱。
好，会太乱。好，那接下来我们就再继续做我们的访问。So we'll continue. And from your perspective, as an expert, not as an American expert or American official or official representing U.S. interests, what is your observation that would represent the best course of policy choice for Taiwan in the next 4 years?
Well, the ECFA has barely begun to show results. If you look at it from a security or diplomatic point of view, if you look at it from an economic or social development point of view, Taiwan is on a very positive path in its current relationship with the mainland. It's not ideal. It has many shortcomings, of course. But if you look at the big picture, Europe is heading for a serious economic slowdown. The US is 3 or 4 years from a real economic recovery. Markets are not going to be available. If Taiwan gets into the business of arguing and damaging its economic relationship with the mainland or other trading partners, Taiwan is going to suffer domestically. The economic benefits for the young people will be disappearing. So you have to have a picture not just of cross-strait relations, but of the global economic climate. In addition to all the other things that people are concerned about in terms of law enforcement and dealing with refugees or immigrants and the other legal issues that come between Taiwan and the mainland.
Yes, and going back to the 92 consensus, there are people here in Taiwan claims that the Chinese have never accept 92 consensus means one China, different interpretations, and it means ultimate unification with the People's Republic. And is that a fact?
Well, the Chinese frequently talk about the one China principle, and that's very good for their audience at home. But when they're talking to us, and I'm talking to me and to officials, I'm not an official, but to officials as well, they repeatedly refer to the 92 consensus as probably the only means, in their view at this time, for continuing the kind of pragmatic approach to cross-strait relations we've seen over the last couple of years. There's really not much of an opportunity to get around it. And even Hu Jintao in a phone conversation with President Bush, in a Xinhua broadcast of that conversation, referenced the 92 consensus. So you can't say that China has never officially endorsed it, but it's a running commentary from Chinese officials who are responsible for cross-strait affairs in private as well.
So, and one thing is that, is it a responsible claim for certain elements within the Taiwan society that interpret 92 consensus is nothing other but one China?
No, I think it's a very creative formulation that allows a lot of ambiguity. And one China is somewhere buried in there. Each side has its own view of what that one China is, and that's the kind of ambiguity that allows for the creative process of building a relationship across the strait that allows respective sovereignties to be maintained while practical business gets done.
Yeah, but somehow certain elements within the society, they claim that to the outside world, that is outside Taiwan and outside mainland China, that the 92 consensus simply means one China and that's it. Is that a fact? Is that the way the U.S.
No, there may very well be people who think that way, but people who know the field, who write or work in Taiwan-related studies know very clearly that's not the case.
And one question I'd like to ask you is about again, it is about the fact that there are people who believe the so-called 92 consensus, or the 92 consensus, is selling out Taiwan's dignity, is selling out Taiwan's sovereignty, and it is kowtowing to Beijing, and it is ultimate reunification with the People's Republic. Is that how people read it back in Washington by you?
Well, the people in my circles, that includes a broad range of scholars and officials, do not read it that way. This is one of these necessary compromises that states have to make with other states. It's been beneficial for American interests. That's first and foremost in our minds. We also think it's been beneficial for Taiwan's relationship with China and for China's with Taiwan. And disruption of that could have unforeseen effects on the mainland's succession process, on tensions in the region, how our own elections will go if the high tensions in the Taiwan Strait reemerge during the course of an American election campaign.
Yes, and given the fact that the U.S. economy is weak in its recovery, maybe just like you mentioned, 3-4 years, and also about the fact that the European Union is in deep trouble. There is an idea about diversifying Taiwan's reliance on the mainland market, and Ms. Tsai, or Dr. Tsai, who has also claimed, pledged that after she assumes office, she will form a team of experts and leading a negotiating team or negotiating teams to all over the world and to negotiate FTAs to diversify Taiwan's reliance on the People's Republic. Is that feasible?
Well, every country is different, but any country that has a larger relationship with China than it has with Taiwan will look to get some kind of permission from Beijing before they go ahead. If relations are smooth between Taiwan and Beijing, that may be possible. But in the absence of smooth relations, I can't imagine China would allow a trading partner not to feel the heat if it were to try to do an FTA with Taiwan.
And from your perspective and your analysis, what is going to be the likely outcome should Mr. Ma wins another term?
The outcome in what sense? Bilaterally with the U.S., cross straits?
In general.
Well, in general, the reaction to a re-election of President Ma will be a huge sigh of relief in the region, in Beijing, in Washington, and I would assume so in Taiwan as well, because it will mean a continuation of a relatively prosperous and constructive status quo.
Yes, and what if should Dr. Tsai wins the election?
Well, anxiety will rise in the early days of a post-election period. People will be looking for signs from her that she might do what she hinted at doing when she visited.